welcome once again to today's book review. It's a privilege to have you here. So, just a brief overview of what we've been seeing so far. I'm just going to, I would need to do some gestures. So, um, this is the size of this book. This book has been very, I wouldn't say challenging for me, and has been what has been testing my patience and grit so far. The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. And before we started, I explained how that this book definitely has different volumes. It has volume one, it has volumes, it has books, and then in the books it has chapters. So we are currently in volume one, book one. Now, today's review, I'm going to be focusing on chapter 5 and chapter 6. Just give me a minute to sort out some things to so that the review can just go smoothly. So in the chapter 5, in the 50th chapter of this book, chapter 5, book 1, let's go there. The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith, chapter 5, book 1. Chapter 5, book 1, of course, the title is, now this is part 2. We have to go to part 1. This is book 2. We have to go to book 1. Here, so of course, chapter 5 of book 1 of the real and nominal price of commodity, or their price in labor and their price in money. So what Adam Smith basically talks about here is just about how the of the real and nominal price of commodity, of course, comparing price of commodity and price of labor, showing that at some point in time, it showed that at some point in time, one wouldn't be needing just labor to be able to survive. There would be a time when you would need to employ someone. He said every rich man is rich or poor according to the degree in which he can afford to enjoy the necessary convenience and amusement of life. But after the division of labor has won, so of course, in the previous chapter, he explained division of labor, but he spoke that, of course, explained that when that is gone, after the division of labor is gone, of course, when that is no longer really considered um taking place, it is but very small part of this which means man's labor can supply him. So that means saying that it is only a small part of your labor, right, that you can survive with or get rich through. Of course, he just explained that once division of labor is gone, you can no longer survive on your own work alone, right? So you must now rely on labor of others. So basically, it talks about employment in this part of the chapter. Of course, he spoke of the fact that the true value of any commodity is not measured by gold or silver in their days, right? But by the quantity of other people, labor that can allow you to command. So that is what value is over time. The quantity of other people that you can command, right? Of course, what we call employee today, right? Of course, you also talk about the real price is human effort. So the true cost of anything requires what it actually requires of the person that are willing to work for it. That is how you know the true value of anything, not just by you knowing having been able to work alone, right? The number of labor you are able to command. How many persons are you able to command, right? I think over the next towards the end of the chapters, it talks about real price and nominal price. So it talks about real price and nominal price towards the end of the chapter. Of course, it just talks about um okay, I think yes, of course I explained before real price is the true cost is anything. That is the real price. Someone that is willing to work. Um the value of money shifts, then gold and silver are commodities too, right, in their days, but their value fluctuates, which is depend on how easy or hard they are to mine. And the reason why they were very important was because they are rare. They call these things rare minerals. So the value shifts, right? The fixed value of labor is actually the real price, okay, according to him. What labor is valued per time. So to a working person, labor always costs the same portion of their ease, liberty, and happiness. So labor's real price never changes. Why money only has a shifting nominal price, right? So of course, what this means is that Adam Smith is pointing out that it's not just abstract theory. It matters deeply for long-term contract like rentals, multi-land rentals. Money and precious metals change in value depending on the government or depending on historical habits and all of that. So they change over time. And of course, he now explains something that is very interesting about corn and gold. He explained something interesting about corn and gold. Of course, he explained the fact that sorry, I think he explained the fact that corn, right, is a better long-term use than gold. Minute, please. You explained the fact that corn, for the long time, you would always need corn to eat, right? But money, which is gold and silver, is short term. It's better for short term, right? According to him, from year to year, right, grain prices will fluctuate. According to him, from year to year, but it will always be important because one would not survive by just that grain, by just that gold. Because from what I picked up in this is just the fact that food is more important than just rare minerals at the end of the day. From his explanation of this chapter, was quite a longer chapter, right? He he showed historically wages and labor values were rarely recorded accurately across centuries. It always fluctuates depending on situation per time. In our recent days, we now have Bitcoin and all. The moment anybody, if everyone agrees that okay, this is what we are going to use to trade, then everyone will use it. But however, the basic is always corn and grain. I think during their days also, before it is winter, they always have to gather corn and grains. They will not gather gold and silver. They gather corn and grains because of its value, no matter the time, right? Humans will always need to eat, right? They will always need to feed. Okay. Then now the next chapter, which is chapter 6, I think book 1, chapter 6, VI, of the component part of the price of commodity, of the component part of the price of commodity. Of course, in this chapter, he just talked about what makes up the final price of any products in a modern economy. In the early days, in early histories, right, he talks about land leasing here specifically. In the early history, according to him, before private land ownership is done, labor was the only thing that sets price. How strong can you work, right? How ready are you to labor? Okay. But now in the modern history, people accumulate wealth by stocks, capitals, and private properties. Just like in the modern history, in the old, the primitive society, then they fought with just knife and arrows, but now they are fighting with warheads and also things changes. He talks about the fact that in their own modern history, then when he was writing this book, people were no longer accumulating wealth by just being able to work hard, but now being able to lease land, lease their properties, becoming landlords. In our days today, there are several things also that he would have added. Maybe probably people who create content and all of that. So um if you are paying interest on loan, that interest is simply a proportion of the profits the borrower uses. He also talked about profits and borrowing in this particular chapter. And then in chapter 7 of the natural and market price of commodities. I haven't gotten to this chapter yet. So as we've seen so far, chapter 6 talks about the fact that, just a basic summary, chapter 6 talks about the fact that Smith is arguing that you cannot get wealthy by just labor alone. There is now that part of employing others, right? Then in chapter 6, he now talks about the fact that people were leasing land, people were buying stocks. So there is now the part of not getting wealthy by just labor alone, also by land leasing, by buying stocks, and then accumulating capital, basically. Thank you so much for joining in till this time. Till next time in our book review. This was episode 29. See you in episode 30.